Welcome, Math 6. We're going to be going through lesson 1.6, which is on least common multiples. Before we really dive into this, we should look at some definitions. Now, hopefully, you've got your notes in front of you, ready to fill them out. You may have already glued or taped them into your notebook or punched them, 3-hole binder, put them in your notebook that way. If you haven't, let's fill them out, and then let's glue them, tape them, or 3-hole punch them and put them in our math notebooks. Definitions. First, we're going to talk about multiples. Multiples are counting it by a number, multiplying by a number, multiplying by 1, by 2, by 3, by 4, by 5. Common multiples, multiples that are shared by 2 or more numbers, or the count by numbers that are the same. So this row right here are what we call the multiples of the number 2. Because, grab my arrow, we have 2 times 1, 2 times 2, 2 times 3, 2 times 4, and so on and so forth. The next row is multiples of 5. Because again, we have 5 times 1, times 2, times 3, times 4, so on and so forth. The common multiples are those numbers that appear in both of them, that they share, that are multiples of both 2 and 5. So you will notice 10, 20, and 30 are all multiples of both 2 and 5. The least common multiple is the number, the least of the common multiples are the smallest count by number that a set of numbers share. So for instance, going back to our 2 and 5 here, our least common multiple, we have 10, 20, and 30 that they have in common. The smallest is 10. So we call 10 our least common multiple. In this next part, this activity, I'm going to show you a couple of them, and then I would like you to try some on your own. When we talk about the multiples of 8 and 12, we're going to use this Venn diagram to kind of illustrate. And a Venn diagram is the circles that show things that they have in common and things that they each have uniquely. So we're going to list some multiples of 8. We're going to list some multiples of 12. And then we're going to decide which are common multiples. And we'll even talk about which the least common multiples is. Okay, so when we talk about multiples of 8, 8 times 1 is 8. 12 times 1 is 12. 8 times 2 is 16. 12 times 2 is 24. 8 times 3 is 24. 12 times 3 is 36. Notice I'm going back and forth, but you could go kind of in any way you wanted. I could just stick with the 8s. 8 times 1, 8 times 2, 8 times 3, 8 times 4, 8 times 5, and then 8 times 6. And we could stop right there. We have 12 times 1, 12 times 2, 12 times 3, 12 times 4, maybe 12 times 5. We'll stop right there. Okay, so I've kind of landed or ended on about the same number for each. So let's identify some numbers that they have in common. Is 8 a number that they have in common? No, 8 only belongs to the 8s. So notice I'm going to put it over here, just in the bubble, the green bubble. That's multiples of 8. Similarly, 16 only belongs to the 8. But notice 24. Notice 24 is in both. It's a multiple of both. It's going to go in this region right here that's overlapped. Now, we don't need to list it twice, so I'm going to take 24 away. 12 only belongs to the multiples of 12. 36 is only a multiple of 12. 32 is only a multiple of 8. 40 is only a multiple of 8. But 48 belongs to both. And I don't need to list it twice. 60 only belongs to 12s. So now I've sorted their multiples. And again, we could keep going. There would be more multiples of 8. There would be more multiples of 12. There would be more common multiples. The least common multiple that we say LCM is the smallest number they have in common. That's 24. Okay, if you feel like you'd like to try B on your own, go right ahead. Or you can just keep going with the video and work through this one with me. So we have multiples of 4 and multiples of 14. So 4 times 1 is 4. 8 times 3 is 12. 16. 20. 24. 28. 32. All right. 14. So we have 4 times 1 is 14. 14 times 2 is 28. 14 times 3. Now, if you're not sure how to do that, let's just come over here and show you. 3 times 4 is 12. 3 times 3 is 3 plus 1 is 4. So we'll go 42. Okay, I'm actually going to stop right there. And because I've found one that they have in common and some that they don't have in common. So let's look at this list. What is the number they have in common? Looks like 28 belongs in both. Okay, so I'm going to take 28 and move it, whoopsies, right here. Now I don't need both of them. All right, and then I'm just going to take the other numbers and I'm going to sort them. So 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, and 32. And over here we have 14 and 42. Now again, we could keep going. We could have continued both lists. 28 is what we call our least common multiple. It was the only multiple we found of this one, and that's okay. Not often you need to find more than one multiple. We're generally looking for the least common multiple. So once we found that one they have in common. Okay, I would encourage you to try letter C on your own now, 10 and 15. Go ahead and pause the video, try that one on your own, then we'll come back together. All right. So, multiples of 10. Well, let's use a different color just for fun. Okay, so we have 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. Sure, we'll stop right there. 15. Oopsies, should make sure. 15 times 1 is 15. Then we have 15 times 2, which is 30. 15 times 3, which is 45. And then 60. All right, I'll stop right there. You could have gone further, right? But I'm going to go ahead and stop right there. So right away, we see we've got a couple numbers in common. So the 30 is going to go in the number in common. Get rid of that 30. And it looks like we found two numbers they have in common, 60. And I don't need both of them. All right. So then I'm going to grab these other ones. 10 belongs in the tens. 20, 40, 50. And then over here on the multiples of 15, we have 15 and 45. We found two multiples, but our least common multiple is 30. All right. Try letter D. I'm going to say go till you find a common multiple. Okay. This one, we don't need to necessarily look for least common multiples. Go ahead and try this one on your own. And then we'll come back together. Okay, so hopefully you've tried this one on your own. Let's take a look at it. So 20 times 1 is 20, times 2 is 40, 60, 80, 100. All right, and I'm actually going to stop right there, and I'm going to start my 35s. Now, I may not find a common multiple in this stretch, and if not, I'll keep going for both of them. So 35 times 1 is 35, times 2, 70, times 3. Let's say I didn't know what that was. Let's come over here, right? I can show it over here. 3 times 5 is 15. 3 times 3 is 9, plus 1 is 10, so 105. Okay, so notice I have not found any common multiples yet. So then I'm gonna have to keep going. So now let's do 35 times 4. 4 times 5 is 20. 4 times 3 is 12, plus 2 is 14. All right, well, let's go back to our 20s and continue that list. So let's see. We had times 1, times 2, times 3, times 4, times 5. 20 times 6 is 120. 20 times 7 is 140. And there it is. Now I've found a common multiple. So I'm going to grab that 140, put it right here in the middle. And then I'm just going to divide my other ones into the correct circle. So the 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, 120, the 35, the 70, and the 105. So I had to go quite a ways there, but notice the strategy I used. I went 20s all the way up to 20 times 5, so 20, 40, 60, 80, 100. Then on the 35s, I to 35 times 1, times 2, times 3, and I hadn't found one yet. So then I had to add more onto the 20s so that I could find one until I found my least common multiple. All right, let's keep going. A traffic light changes every 30 seconds. Another traffic light changes every 40 seconds. Both lights have just changed. After how many minutes will both lights change at the same time again? Now, or even we can look at seconds, after how many seconds. So we're really looking for the least common multiple of 30 and 40. So let's look at 30. 30 times 1, 30 times 2, 30 times 3, 30 times 4, 30 times 5, 30 times 6. I'm going to stop and hope that I can find one between within this range, so 40. Let's see, 40 times 1 is 40. 40 times 2 is 80. 40 times 3 is 120. There it is. Okay, so it's after 120 seconds. Now, the question actually said, after how many minutes? Well, 120 seconds is 2 minutes because there are 60 seconds in a minute. All right. I would really encourage you to pause the video and work to find the least common multiple of 4 and 6 on your own right now. So find that least common multiple of 4 and 6. Okay, so let's switch colors here. Let's do green because this is written in green. All right, so multiples of 4 are 4. 4 times 1. 4 times 2 is 8. 4 times 3 is 12. Times 4 is 16, 20, 24. Let's go ahead and stop right there. Let's do some multiples of 6. Okay, 6 times 1 is 6. 6 times 2 is 12. 6 times 3 is 18. And we actually don't need to keep going. We have found, oopsie, that goodness sakes. I was looking at the 12 and highlighted the 16. We have found our least common multiple. Hopefully that one was clear for you. All right, this next one says find the least common multiple, the LCM, using prime factorization. So prime factorization we did in 1.4, well, more in 1.5, but you finding the LCM using prime factorization a little bit different. So let's take a moment. I'm going to show a video.
Download Simply Piano today. I always wanted to be a real piano man. So I download
using prime factorization. If we have to find the LCM of 12 and 32, we know we can list some multiples and find the smallest value common to both numbers. So multiples of 12, 24, 36, 48, 60, 72, 84, 96, 108. And for 32, 64, and 96. The LCM is 96. Now I'm going to use these same numbers to show you how to find the LCM using prime factorization. And the great thing about this method is it works for any number of any size. First, we do the prime factorization of each of the numbers. Primes in red and composite numbers in blue. 12 is from 2 times 6. 6 is from 2 times 3. Circle the primes. 32. 4 times 8 is 32. 4 is from 2 times 2. 8 is from 2 times 4, and 4 is from 2 times 2. Circle the primes. Next, we make a quick table of the prime factors. Using columns, we match the like factors. Leave a space where there's no match. 32 has the prime factor 2 5 times. Write them in. 12 has the prime factor 2 twice. I leave spaces and then put its remaining prime factor 3. I put a line under the prime factors to help my thinking. Finally, we find the prime factors of the LCM. We use one factor from every column, and if there's a vertical pair, we only take one of those factors. The LCM of these numbers is the product of these factors. 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 3. Work it out. 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16, times 2 is 32. 32 times 3, well, 3 times 2 is 6, and 3 times 3 is 9, so the LCM of 12 and 32 is 96. And we know this is right because we already found the LCM using the multiple listing method. Now we know the method works, let's try a slightly more tricky pair. 28 and...
All right, we're actually going to not watch the video do that pair because we're going to do 16 and 20 on our own. Okay, so let's take a look at that. So 16 2 times 8. 8 is 2 times 4, and 4 is 2 times 2. So the prime factorization of 16 is 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. Right? So 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. 20 is 4 times 5. 4 is 2 times 2. So here's our prime. 2 times 2 times 5. So 2 times 2 times 5. And as the video was saying, what we're going to do then is take the 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 5. So in the pairs, we just use one of them. But we also have to have this 2, and this 5. So then we're going to come over here. So we have 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 5. 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 2 is 4. And we have another 5. 4 times 4 is 16, still times 5. And then 6 times 5 is 30. 5, 6, 7, 8. So our least common multiple is 80. All right. Find the least common multiple of 4, 15, and 18. And we're going to do the prime factorization method. So we've got 3 numbers. 4, which we know is 2 times 2. 15, 3 times 5. 18, which is 3 and 6, but 6 is 2 and 3. All right, so I'm going to make a table with 4, 15, and 18. So 4 is 2 times 2. 15 is 3 times 5. Try to write that again. And 18 is 2 times 3 times 3. So I'm going to write the 2 here because it's in common. The 3 here because it's in common, but then I need another 3. So a 2, a 2, a 3, a 5, and another 3. So 2 times 2 times 3 times 3 times 5. 2 times 2 is 4. 3 times 3 is 9, and times 5. 4 and 9 is 36 times 5. And 36 times 5. 5 times 6 is 30. 5 times 3 is 150. Or 15, 16, 17, 18. Sorry, I was jumping ahead there. So our least common multiple is 180. That's a lot. All right. So at this point, I would suggest working through a handful of these. So let's pick a couple of easier ones. So let's do 1, 2, and then let's do 4 and 5. So at this point, pause the video, try those ones, and then we'll come back and work through those 4. Okay, so let's take a look at these ones. So first, 3 and 8. Now, you can use either method you want. So if I were to use the prime factorization method, well, 3 is a prime number, so it doesn't really break down, so it's already prime. 8 breaks down into 2 and 4 becomes 2 times 2. So if I make my table for 3, I simply have a 3. And for 8, I have 2 times 2 times 2. So it looks like 3 times 2 times 2 times 2. So to come up with my prime factorization, I need to multiply those numbers together. 2 times 2 times 2 times 3. Well, 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 3 is 6. And when I multiply those together, 24. So my least common multiple is 24. And you could have done the list method where you could have listed the multiples of 3 and you could have listed the multiples of 8. All right. So again, you could do either method here. I'm going to use the list method this time. 9 times 1 is 9. 9 times 2 is 18. 9 times 3 is 27. 9 times 4 is 36. 9 times 5 is 45. 12 times 1 is 12. 12 times 2 is 24. 12 times 3 is 36. And there we have it. There's our least common multiple. And you could have, again, used either method. 14 and 18, you could do either one. Let's do prime factorization. I think when the numbers start to get bigger, prime factorization becomes a little bit easier. So 14 is 2 and 7. 18 is 2 and 9, and that's 3 and 3. So here we go. Make our table. 14 gets a 2 and a 7. 18 has a 2, a 3, and a 3. So we're going to multiply a 2, a 7, and 2 different 3s. Okay? So I list those numbers up here. And you'll notice when I multiply, I don't know why I put a 14 there. I was thinking ahead. I like to kind of group them. So 2 times 7 is 14. 3 times 3 is 9. And now I'm going to multiply those two together. So I'm just showing you how I do that. 9 times 4, 36. 9, 10, 11, 12. So our least common multiple is 126. All right, 28 and 36. Again, you could use the list method. I think the list method gets pretty tricky when they're this big, but you could certainly do that. 28. So there's a couple different ways that you could come up with 28. I see it as 2 times 14. You might see it as 4 times 7. 14 is 2 and 7. Now we've got all prime numbers. So when I come down here, 28 is 2 times 2 times 7. 36. Maybe you see that as 4 and 9. 4 gets 2 and 2. 9 gets 3 and 3. Now we have all prime numbers. So for 36, I have 2 times 2 times 3 times 3. Coming up with this least common multiple, I get 2 times 2 times 7 times 3 times 3. 2 times 2 times 7 times 3 times 3. I'm going to group them. 4, 9, and I didn't group the 7 with anybody. Now 4 times 7 is 28. Still times 9. Now I'm going to say 28 times 9. 9 times 8 is 72. 9 times 2 is 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, and 25. So our least common multiple is 252. All right, that was a lot, and those numbers got pretty big there towards the end. Now is your turn to really practice on your own with your homework. All right.